to, I guess. Okay, well, let's get started on the 22nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here. And once again, we're live with Mr. Keshe at the Spaceship Institute, Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation. And we've got a couple of other people that may join us from the Spaceship Institute, Armin and perhaps John or someone else, maybe Marco or someone will also, but they're mostly on vacation for the August break at the Spaceship Institute. Of course, Mr. Keshe never takes a break, so he's with us tonight once again. I think it's about probably 3 dozen of these workshops in a row that Mr. Keshe has attended on time generally. And tonight it was me that's kind of messed things up. But anyway, we're ready to go now. I'll switch things over to Mr. Keshe. He'll start it off, and we'll have various questions and so on from people as we go on. Okay, take it away, Mr. Keshe.
Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you are. As usual, we start. We have, I can hear myself back.
Armin, can you mute, please?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I can hear myself back somewhere. It's an echo. Yeah, it's okay now. What we just talked before, I hear myself back. Somebody's got a microphone. Yeah, it's been the same all the time.
Yeah, it's Armin.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem. The position is that, as we said, we try to catch up this 3-4 weeks while the knowledge seekers are away with what is missing in the knowledge, or what needs to be done or to be added to the knowledge, or in a way trying to explain it in more detail. I've received a few emails and I've seen some questions on the forum, people asking different questions. One of the questions about why generator power is limited to 4.3 kilowatt. Is it possible to produce 10 to 20 kilowatt generators? The limitation of the power is decided by the manufacturing procedure, not by anything else. And there are some restrictions in the European market in what limit you can produce before you become power supplier or whatever. So there are reasons why we do within the limits of the European, power production. You can produce anything you like, depends how much and what you produce and how you produce, which system you use. I was told recently that the Russians have managed to produce 14 kilowatt using a specific configuration of the materials. So there is no limitation. As you understand, a lot of scientists around the world are working and doing the same kind of things. They had the patterns and now they're adding to the knowledge. I even was listening to Al Jazeera, one of the leading cosmologists being interviewed. My wife and I, we sat and we listened, and I said to my wife later on that this guy has read the book, and it was just listening to myself in a way. He was repeating the pieces of the book, what is in the 3 books and part of the interviews we're given, and emphasizing that the knowledge is too old and it has to be updated. And the new science does not accept such a generalization of knowledge about the energy and mass and cosmology. The other question has been asked, what's the mass of the latest version of generator? At the moment, we are around about 5 kilogram, but will come down to below once the final versions are done. There is a very interesting question. It's a very long one, but I'll read it. You've read it. If you haven't read it on the forum, I'll read it because this has to be answered, and I'll explain to you why. It says, I have two questions I would like to ask, hopefully to be addressed in the next workshop. One, I have put my GANS reactor and everything seems to be going as has been thought in the workshop. From the salty cell collecting GANS at the bottom of the fatty amino acid forming on top. My question is that as I wanted to test for myself the concept of food and how touching the fat on the top of the salty cell would provide all food needs for my body, I went ahead and touched it and felt nothing except some cold, which are attributed to the water itself. So I decided to keep my finger in the water for a little longer than touch, like 5 seconds. Something interesting happened, which is that I felt giddy. Not that I did not say dizzy, because note that I did not say dizzy, because the feeling was in the head mostly, but I was very stable. My heart rate also went up, probably because I panicked. I don't know. Guys, could you ask Mr. Cash what was happening, because I haven't had the courage to touch the water again. Don't gather the courage and don't touch it again till we know everything about this material. As the knowledge seekers can tell you here, I keep on telling them, one of them decided to be doing the same kind of out of line and saying that I drank it and nothing happened, I don't feel hungry, and the rest of it. You take from what you need from the water and from the liquid. On the other hand, we are running, as you know, we're running tests, and there is a very interesting thing happening in one of the tests. Around March, April, May, the knowledge seekers chose 2 small containers of water, and we put 5 frogs tapple in it. The tapple then later on was decided that the container was too small, so they've been put in a bigger container, like a small fish tank. We fed one side only with CO2 GANs, and the other one is a natural process. We fed, I don't know how many times the knowledge seekers have fed the side with the CO2 in the process of past few months, or maybe once or twice. But since I've been looking at them in past 2 weeks, 10 days.
I fed them 4 times, Mr. Cash.
How many times, Armand?
4 times.
4 times, yeah. But I have fed them 4 times since you left in the past 2 weeks. So what is happening is a very, very strange phenomena. I'm videoing it more or less every other day, every 2-3 days. And that is, out of the one which we have not fed any GANs, a natural process, 2 tapples are left, the rest have died. And they are more or less on the same size as I remember we picked them up from the pool. The water is very not clear, it's not muddy, but it's not clear, it's not transparent as much as the other one. The one which has a CO2 is very transparent, is very clear. You see high level of oxygen bubbles on the bottom where we left some algae from the pool when we picked them up, that they had some food. But the strange thing is that in the container where we feeding CO2. One tadpole has already changed into a frog, and the second one has already got his legs and changing to a frog in the next few days or weeks. Other two are still in a tadpole condition, but the frogs which were outside on the canvas on the in the normal environment, some have already changed into a frog, and we see them around the garden. So in normality they should be a full frog, but they are not in both cases because it's contained, the food cycle is contained, whatever the algae can produce or whatever is in the water that they need to eat. The reason I raised this question at this point is that in the past 2 weeks I have observed something very strange. The tadpole which is getting his legs, the legs are very normal in respect to the body of the tadpole, are chubby and they are very, very distinct, you can see them. But in the tadpole which has become a frog, the body has become very long compared to what it was. And arms and legs are very, very short. They're literally becoming transparent. I have videoed it. When the knowledge seekers are back, they can load up the videos that you can see. The tail has disappeared. But to me, seeing frogs changing, tadpoles changing to frogs for years since my childhood, I've never seen such a position. The legs are like literally like a hair, a couple of hairline thick, but the body has elongated. Is the frog is going back to the fish state, or is it the transition time? We have to see if we're going to get a frog as a normal frog at the end. The hands are very, very, very small, very thin, and the legs are the same now. You have to look for the hands. You can't see them normally. If you look, just to have a look. So please do not experiment, as I've said from day one, with these materials. Till we ascertain, we confirm, other scientists develop the technology in a way and we put it in what you need. There is a discussion that the amino acid, which is the fat on the top, in what shape or form it is. We have given this to scientists to analyze it. When we get the analysis back, we'll publish it. So don't put your finger in and don't drink it and eat it and say there is something wrong, the guy is wrong. Most probably you lose your tail or you lose your arms and thicken or thin. We have to see what these materials bring with them. Is it just a CO2, or if we add some of the fat on top on the water, we'll get a different, shape of frog. So people who think we are stupid, believe yourself, the stupidity sits with the one who goes back to the limit of not accepting or trying to be, very clever with themselves. We have told you and we keep on saying, do not touch, do not come in touch with the contact with these materials, always wear gloves, and that's what we said from the beginning. If you like to drink it and prove that there is something is wrong and somebody is wrong, then it's the consequence of it, what you do with yourself, till the material is analyzed fully. These materials are high energy, and the energy is in a plasmatic condition. And we know from our agriculture side, from past 3-4 years. The guy who did the agriculture told me some of the wheat have changed back to being like a grass, and they are growing as spreading like grass. They've gone back to their origin condition thousands of years ago before we modified them. So if this thing happens with a frog, would the frog go back to its original condition of becoming a fish or partially a fish? Because the shape of the frog is not normal. It's very much like a rectangular shape body with the two little sticks at the bottom like the leg and two sticks at the top. Two very, very fine pieces. Maybe I haven't seen such a thing, but I video it every couple of days, and the knowledge seekers can make a sequence of it to show. So please do not eat or touch these things, and we have told you before. I cannot tell you what's the state of, was it you shock or you feel better or you feel giddy, whatever. It's what your body reacts to these things. In the lab, I always say to the knowledge seekers, if when you come in touch with them, never rub your hands, just wash it on the running water that it can take away, that doesn't get absorbed into your body.
Along those lines, I heard a story last night from one of the experimenters where he accidentally touched some of the GANs with his finger, and he noticed that it was a finger that had a previous scar on it from many years ago, but the scar tissue started tingling in the finger and tingled for up to 24 hours after he had actually touched the substance. So he knew very much that there was a lot of energy in that substance, and it was not to be touched, basically.
Yeah, let the scientists open the door. Let the research develop and tells us how amino acids are changed. There is, as you know, in the paper which I wrote about the amino acid, oil and gas, and oil and protein, there is a huge hypocrisy at the moment about the production of the oil. And I said in that paper that the oil is not something from the animals, which has come from the residual after being buried underground for millions of years. The oil is continuously produced by our atmosphere and is added to the reservoir. So the oil as we use it for running of the cars and things will be everlasting as long as the earth is in this position in respect to its environment in the solar system. Will be producing oil. We'll never run out of oil. There is no way, there is no chance. And somehow it looks as we increase the speed of the use, the more conversions are done. So the production of the oil and the oil industry, as they're telling us that it will run out in the next few years, is a fallacy. But we have to understand what kind of oil we produce on the top and what condition we put it through to become the oil which we use it. I was listening to an interview with an American politician or American scientist, whatever he calls himself, that the terminology of fossil fuel is totally ridiculous because it does not exist. And you can confirm it yourself. You had no dinosaurs, but you're creating oil on top of your boxes. So fossil fuel is a fallacy, and it never goes with what we achieve. It depends how you condition it that this amino acid converts to what it needs to be according to the environment and condition. It's like what the Russians did, making oil out of leaves or whatever a few years ago in the pressure cooker. They created the condition of the pressure cooker to extract the oil from the leaves, and they said they can produce oil from these kind of things. If you ask me what this oil is, I've been drinking it or I eat it and nothing happened, you have to convert the oil into what it needs to be for the application. If you need to change it to become the oil for the burning, or you change it to become the oil for frying. These are the techniques which in the future has to be developed for mass production. So in a way, you don't need all these, what do you call it, materials to produce, to have a meat in any shape or form. You just make a recipe which gives you that kind of protein. You have the base, now you have to work with the base into what you want to achieve. So please, as I explained before, do not put your fingers in it and then not drink it and say the guy is stupid, doesn't know what to. You'll come to pay for your own misconduct. The people who drink it and eat it and say nothing happens, just take a tissue. I've shown this to the knowledge seekers. Get a tissue and just touch the top fat, and then have a look at it. Or get a piece of wire and run it through the top fat, and then put it on the tissue. You will see mixture of copper oxide, CO2, GANs of different materials in the structure of the amino acid which you picked up. So that structure in conjunction with the amino acid decides what it's going to become. It's going to become a nerve system, it's going to become a chicken or protein or a fish protein. So somehow in this CO2 process we've seen this before with wheat about 2 years ago in the research which the foundation paid for it. Now I see replication in the animal life. If this animal, this creature, I pray for its soul, I hope we don't do anything wrong, and that if he converts back into a fish, this will be historical. Then we have to understand why. I'm videoing it so you will see it in detail, that how thin these legs and arms are, and it's taking the shape of a fish. But how it is and how will it happen, most probably Armin will post it for you when he comes back, or Marco. Please do not eat, do not touch. Even if you touch nano layers, always use a glove. This is what I tell the knowledge seekers all the time. Secondly, it says 2. What is this whitish powderish thing that forms on the wires outside the salty cell? It's like what forms on the car battery. So what exactly am I looking at? This is again a combination of the production of the amino acid with conjunction with the salt and CO2 in a GANs state in the matter. These are usually the other salts of which their mixture leads to creation of the human body, and in the process of millions of years this has happened. So what you see, we have the same salts here. We have an orange one, we have a green one, we have a white one. And if you have connected your wires correctly, you will get like granules on top of some of your wires and in your connection wires. These are different kind of CO2 or absorption of the CO, conversion of the CO2, and it depends on the environment you have created. We start seeing these granules on the top since we start operating the dynamic reactors in the environment of the lab. So this, what you get is a natural growth of expansion, and they will grow forever. They grow to massive amounts. If you leave them, you use 1 spoon of or 2 spoons of salt in the whole of the, let's say in one block, or maybe use 100 grams of salt in the container of what you put your connections in as the cells, but these can grow to 2-3 kilograms of salt. They will carry on using what's in the atmosphere to start the creation of life. The ones who are in the knowledge seekers, they have seen, I have a box with what I call the water of life. And they've seen it, there is 4 containers, it's nearly 3 years old. And there is more or less, I think, about 1 kilo, 2 kilos of salt looking material in this container. They just keep on growing. And so I have created a specific condition to start the origin of life on the planet. And I've seen new creatures in this material, a new life. So what you see as this whitish, saltish thing which comes, as you say, like in a battery, if you allow it, it'll grow very rapidly sometimes. Last week it grew in one of the units so rapidly that they were covering the floor of the lab and the table, so I put them in the sink. And we had to break up the cell because suddenly they start getting produced in a mass from the same containers. So these are the way the environment and the materials in the environment are used to create conditions that it's a very much live condition. This is not something which is just a chemical reaction. These are plasmatic reaction and they are feeding themselves. And the growth comes. It's very much, if you can keep this environment running for months, I've done it now for 3 years, you'll see that you create environments for new type of life. So we are adding to the number of the creations on this planet because the planet decides what to produce in these materials. There is an amino acid in conjunction with what GANs you released in your process, plus some salt, which was originally in the container, but then the environment changes and uses what it needs. Try, once you see this thing start producing, give it a big container and let it grow and watch it over the next 6 months, 12 months, if you have time and the space and patience. There is a question which has come from Klaus. I think, yeah. It comes, I discussed this with Rick. There's a lot of questions added to this. There's about 8 questions.
From Eric you're talking about, I guess. Eric Clausen.
Yeah, Eric Clausen. The thing is, the questions are very, very simple. But on the other hand, this is a spoon feeding. Whatever you cannot do or you can't achieve and everybody else is, then it's our fault. This is what the process of research is. You carry on your way, you find out what works with you and the way you achieve what you achieve. I was discussing it with Rick before we start the session here on Facebook.
One of the things we say often now to people who ask questions, what if I try this and this and this, what'll happen? And we say, well, try it and report back to us. And that's often the answer, because they just have to try it and see what results they get for their particular experiment and report back and compare it to others' similar experiments, or it could be a totally different situation. So it's a lot of it is try it and, safely try it. We have to add, and see what happens. What are the colors that result? What are the voltages and different criteria?
Yeah, but the thing is, put the cable on the table. I think German listeners to do this and make a video of it and then let it post it on a forum somewhere that people can follow, because our German friends are absolutely perfect with this. It says sound of Mr. Cash is partly dropping on live stream. It's okay now. When we send the material to this guy, I don't know, and we haven't shown this video, when he received the package from DHL, he signed for it, he shows the package, he shows the scissors, he shows cutting the envelope, he shows the envelope and everything else step by step. And at the end, he sent the whole package to the Keshe Foundation, about 2.5 kilo of the seed and the soil. The procedure is very simple. We have shown it in the Fukushima decontamination. You just put the wire, you choose the wire, you choose the material you need. As I was talking earlier on, some people use NaOH, and some people use KOH, some people use mixture of it. It all depends. You have to add to the knowledge. You do it different way, we do it different way.
In relation to that, Mr. Keshe, I think that he was more indicating, is there any preparation to the actual copper metal of the wire before you immerse it in the NaOH and so on?
No, there is no difference.
No surface preparation or other special thing to do. You just strip the wire and put it in, basically. What if, for example, some people might like to handle the wire first and be bending it and so on, so the oils and other substances might get on the wire from their hands. Would that
the caustic takes care of that.
The caustic takes care of that. The heat cleans it up. Right. The heat cleans it up. If you do it in different kind of plastic containers, you have some what do you call it? You have some residual on it. Mm-hmm. In certain other plastic containers, it doesn't work. The procedure, as I was explaining before we go live, was that what I've done over years, depends on how I want the material to be done. I do not strip the wire out of its plastic cover. When it's finished, when the coating is completed, then I make like peeling a banana, 2-3 cuts on the length of the plastic, and I just peel the plastic off, not the wire, not to damage the coating. These are the little things you develop yourself when to see the improvement. And at the end of it, if you use other materials, it's just you add to our knowledge. It says for thickening, for example, nano layers, should we add calcium after each coating? Never done this. If you want to do it and tell us what happens. Whenever we have calcium in our system, it's come through the water supply by accident or by the nature of the water we used. We never used distilled water to create nano coating. This is something we even discussed it before, because the calcium can bring a connection between the layers in the atomic layer.
So are you saying that sometimes it's good to use tap water and other times it's best to use the distilled water? Or what is the general guideline?
We never use distilled water. I don't know. Maybe, most probably, if you use distilled water, you have a more homogeneous nanolayers. But there is something I have to explain about this this situation, because when you go read more and more, it's about one of his questions: how energy flows through the wire to address the nanoparticles north and south when cable are hung. How to recognize with a voltmeter, in what sense. We spoke about this last week. It changes according to the wire. There is something I have to mention about this nano layers. There is a lot of confusion, and I've seen it in the scientific world as well, the papers which are getting published and the rest, that they say nano layers are magnetic or magnetic field or whatever. I am writing a paper, hopefully it'll be finished in the next week or two. I've asked Dirk last week to start doing some pictures for it if he manages to finish it this week. That we explain scientifically in respect to the nano layers, how they're produced and the GaNs, and how the material and the current flows in them. So there is no ambiguity about the production of nano layers, why they behave like a magnetic and the rest of it. I've explained this in a lot of detail in different workshops, but now we put in the paper that other scientists around the world can understand why nano layers behave this way. So we show how it's done, and this goes back because the people who shown our nanomaterials in what do you call it, in the air show a couple of weeks ago in England, they could not explain what they've done, but they say absorb. So in that paper I explain everything in detail about the absorption and the level of absorption, and in a way why we have different color coating and how we create different color coating that we absorb a spectrum of whatever material we need to do. So this paper will be out, and we try to explain a lot of things in this paper about nanomaterial, the GaNs, and the performance. So I hope I answered the question to these questions. You decide what you want to do. It says the copper wire must be bent in half. I do sometimes, I don't sometimes, depends what I want from my material. A mesh bottom of the tank should be chicken mesh, zinc iron. See Mr. Keshe uses a thicker and possibly chrome iron mesh. We use whatever is available. We don't go and shop around. Maybe in the future, if you want homogeneous continuous production, you have to do that kind of thing. I was talking to our people in Tokyo yesterday, that how to they see the production of the materials and the wires and everything else. It's a matter of commercialization, how we produce it homogeneously. So we have the same problem as you have, and different manufacturers most probably produce different materials. There are materials which you can use, cost a lot of money, where you can increase your production of energy by something like 200-300 fold easily. So if you get from 1 square meter, let's say 1 watt or 10 watts, you can get 2 kilowatt. This is a highly expensive material, but it can be used for production of the very high powerful magnetic field, gravitational field layers in your coating. I have used aluminum wiring which is used by the high power energy production people. I've used what do you call it, zinc wires. We use all sorts of things testing. So this is depend on you, what you want to do and how you want to use it and make materials. There is no rule. The rule is very simple. I explained in the paper which we're releasing, is that you have to create a condition strong enough, warm enough, in reality, warm enough, the heat to be just about right enough, and the environment to be magnetically strong enough to allow the top layer atomic structure of the matter of the wire, being copper or whatever, to be loosened up, that they become individual atoms, but the layer below creates the next layer up, that this material, this what you call what do you call, the GaNs of the nanomaterial cannot convert back into matter because of the gravitational environmental condition you create around it. What this means is very simple. You create an environment which the top atom of the copper wire is heated up, but it doesn't melt. But because of the presence of the oxygen, in NaOH or in KOH, allows to create a magnetic gravitational field that matter stays in atomic condition or a gas of itself. But immediately the next atomic structure is created next to each other, above, below, and in the surrounding. That this matter, this atom, stays in a spherical condition of its own, but is not allowed to connect to the other layers physically. So you don't have an electron connection, you have magnetic gravitational field connection between each atom. And as these layers are created so rapidly, they pile up as layers. So I've asked Dirk to show this in a very, very schematic way, and that is, if you put a cell, an atom, then put an atom above it and below it at 120 degrees, and then the same, and back and forth. So what you have, the atom is sandwiched between the magnetic fields of other atoms. And then because of the gravitational magnetic fields difference between layers, each layer of atoms creates its own nanolayer. So each nanolayer is not attached to the one below, is floating over it. And it's the same, is not attached to the above layer, is floating. So in fact, it's the river of atoms. But because they are in a balanced environmental condition, they show themselves as a nanomaterial in a matter condition. So the whole purpose of heating is to create that environment. How you do it, with what caustic you do it, with what heat you do it. Do we actually need caustic to achieve it? Can we create ovens that create this very low heat that allows the continuous production of the nanomaterials without use of salt? Yes, it can be done. In the future, we don't use caustics. In the future, we create that heat condition hot enough but not melting point that allows the, literally, as the atomic structure of the copper releases itself, is captured and controlled by other magnetic field around it as an atom. And then the layers on top of each other make up the nano layers. So what you see as a nano layer, as I've said before, is 30, 40, 50,000 layers of these atoms which are sliding on top of each other. But they are locked due to the gravitational magnetic field. What you do in the next step, you put it back in the same environment as you separated. You put it back in the sea salt. So now you allow those magnetic fields of atoms to separate from each other. And then because you have the salt which you created the condition of the weakness, in the same condition you weaken it again, then that material links up usually with oxygen from the water, plus an oxygen which was in KOH. So you get CuO or CuO2, or you get CuO3K, depends if you use potassium or calcium, or CuOCa, because different Raman spectroscopy show different materials according to how we produce the material. So the whole process of this GANS producing of this nano layer using caustic is just to create that environment gravitational magnetically from the heat that the top layers can separate from the original structure. And the minute they separate, they create their own maggrav positioning and they start pulling the rest up. So in a way, it's like skin grows from underneath to the top. So do you need to use caustic in the future? No. We need to produce GANs. We used to produce nanomaterials in the space. We can't carry caustic. We have to understand how the environment that the caustic creates leads to the separation of the atom from its surface.
So, Mr. Keshe, we have a question in the live stream that sort of goes along with that regarding gold. And in order to make gold GANs, what caustic mix or process works well to nanocoat the gold? And then what water solution works well to make gold GANs? Just salt water, or is it something different?
We've done this. No, you use something different. We've done this before. Don't forget there is huge amount of GANs of gold in the ocean seas, in the oceans, in the water of oceans. There is a lot of
GANs of gold in the oceans, is what you're saying.
Yeah. There is more. There is more. There is more gold floating atomically and in GANs state or whatever nano state in the oceans of the planet than actually deposited in the mines. But the process of absorbing it at the moment is so expensive that they don't do it. When they do desalination in the waters for drinking or whatever like in Persian Gulf by Saudi Arabia and the rest, there's a lot of things once they do this process is absorbed, but they don't know what to do with it, so it gets disposed of, and some can be used. But there is a lot of gold. To produce nano layer gold, you need to create it, because I've done it, and it's not easy, but it can be done. And one of these guys who's sitting around the foundation trying to discredit the foundation originally said, "You don't understand, this is oxidization, go back to your physics class." Now the top institutes confirm that how the same thing, which is going back to physics class, is one of the top absorbers of the whole radiospectrum. So you can create silver nanolayer, you can create gold nanolayers. It's very easy. But then if you create the right condition, you can make ounces of gold. We don't see any need for ounces of gold. In your reactors, you need more to go towards the plasma of hydrogen. You go to hydrogen and the plasma of it, and the plasma of the neutrons. The GANs of gold or nanolayer of gold, it's when you make it, when you touch it with the voltmeter and you put it on the resistance, you see it goes to literally 1 with the 1 on the left side, which is a total resistance, and then you can measure it if you want to do it. In one of the old Keshe Foundation pages, Keshe technology pages, we put a picture of the GANs of gold, nanolayer of gold and silver. I still have it somewhere here in the lab. It's a square, it's a rectangular block with 3 Egyptian figures on it, and the background is silver and the top is gold, and then we've shown all of them, they're all the same. It's all, you can nanocoat gold very easy, but I don't see why you want to do it. What's the application of it? It's done through the same process, but you have to set it up in a specific way to produce it. Any other question?
Okay,
Hello?
so I brought this up last night. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I brought this up last night on our plasma reactor group, which was we understand, or at least I understand, that when you coat copper, you'll get copper GaNs or copper oxide. If you coat zinc, you'll get the white stuff, CO2 or zinc
You see the
GaNs, whatever you want to
combination?
call it.
No. You have to understand this very clearly. Understand this very, very clearly. It's the environment which you create, which leads to the matter, not specifically the matter. When you have a zinc and copper, that environment allows the production of CO2. If you have copper and copper in a different formation, or copper and zinc in different formation, you lead to production of copper oxide or CH4. The color of CH4 and copper oxide are very near to each other. Very, very near to each other. Then you use the same material. We've seen it here in the lab with Armand too. We use the same materials, we use the same box, but because of the gravitational magnetic field in different cell in the box is different, we get CO2 in one part, we get CH3 in one part, and we get copper oxide in another. And even in one of the tests, Marco set a new thing up with a little motor in the back, or Armand, I can't remember. I think it was Marco. And the motor was somehow became close to one of the end of the cells I made for CO2 originally to show the light in it. That changed the environment of the one corner of the box, and the whole box changed. All the CO2s changed colors and materials changed. So it's the condition, the environment you create. This is very important. I've seen a lot of people saying because you use copper and zinc, then you have zinc, chrome, whatever. This is all nonsense. The zinc and copper creates an environment that it leads to release of CO2. Not zinc or chrome or whatever they say, and all sorts of nonsense. These have been Raman spectroscopy tested. We know
right,
exactly
I was just being kind of general.
Yes. So you
I was
can
just being
put,
general.
yeah, no, you're correct, but I try to go in more detail. Not trying to say, just trying to
right,
fill
but
in.
That's not the question.
But
yeah.
Mr. Cash, now I have been set it up, the same way with zinc and copper, and it just started it actually 2 days ago, and you can see that when you set up with copper and copper, it always produces copper oxide.
Yeah.
And right now I set it up copper with aluminum. So aluminum already started to bubble up, like, oxygen. You can see it. It's already third day, and I set it up with titanium, and I set it up with brass. And we will see, I set it up like 6 boxes or 8 boxes each. So in a week, I think it will be, more clear picture. So then we will see, if each material, it will repeat itself. 2 of them we know.
Which one have you nano-coated?
I nano-coated different materials. I tried it, to do different, I have copper, I have nano-coated titanium, I nano-coated brass, and I nano-coated actually zinc too, and aluminum.
You know the last containers you built before the holidays, the big containers. They're all copper and copper, what do you call it, nano copper.
Yes.
They're all green. There is no other thing but copper oxide in
Yeah,
it.
I know, because it's a copper actually.
Copper, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you use a zinc, because Marek, before he leaves, he used 2 big pieces of copper and zinc.
Yes.
And that continuously produces only CO2.
Yes.
So different material, it's a condition which the material create that releases the certain gases.
No, it's understandable. Let's say if we do,
But this,
I have aluminum and aluminum, so I have aluminum and copper. So we will see in a week, what kind of materials we will produce. It will be
the aluminium will be very interesting for you because the coating on aluminium is very loose. Is very loose. It's not packed as the zinc or copper. It creates the oxygen you release, these gases you release. It's what was obtained in the caustic from the oxygen of the NaOH. And it's very loose. Thus, these are the gases which change into GANs, and now in the process they release themselves.
I have a question about that. How would the hydrogen interact in that situation? Because when you put in the aluminum, in the NaOH, it starts to produce hydrogen bubbles in the sodium hydroxide. How does that interact, and how does that affect the process?
My thinking is, if I'm correct, I could be 100% wrong. The hydrogen is released as gas.
Yes.
And this is just gas into the environment. Pardon?
Aluminum when you put in a caustic.
No. Yeah. When you release the hydrogen in the caustic, the hydrogen,
it just becomes a regular molecular hydrogen and escapes.
Initially, it's atomic.
So, would there be some plasmatic effect at the surface, perhaps, going on during that, or is there some way we could take advantage of that monoatomic hydrogen, perhaps?
You can use it for your plasma reactors. It's the best one if you can keep it in mono state.
Mr. Keshe, I have very good voltage actually from it, and LED light is bright. Light is shining.
Oh, you managed to enlighten yourself.
Yeah.
At last. I think you show it to John.
You can go on YouTube, actually. No, Facebook, Spaceship Institute. I posted a video for there.
How many cells have you made? How many cells do you have that you managed to light up the LED?
I have 70.
7 cells?
Yeah, no, 70. 70 cells.
70 cells. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, but this will run till the material is blocked by absorbing the energy. There is a way you can encourage the flow and keep it going for a long time. And this has to. I'll explain later on how you can do it. You can continuously, without touching the liquid, create a condition that the nanolayers stay clean. And they don't get blocked by other materials, by matters.
Sometimes I just shake it, the material goes down. Like cleaning
One way of doing it. One way of doing it. You love shaking it. That's a problem. This is the position with it. Yeah, it can be done. It just depends how you do it.
Along that line, we did have a question from someone, or someone is attempting a reactor that instead of rotating, it'll just vibrate, and the idea being that similar to what you're speaking of, it'll produce some sort of effect. It'll probably keep the particles suspended and the fields, more organized that way. Or what, you have any ideas on simple vibration versus a full scale rotation?
We create this vibration in a way through gas layering in the cores. But I've never had the opportunity to create a vibration to see what happens. Because by creating vibration between the layers, we release extreme ultraviolet between the nitrogen and what do you call it? The hydrogen. I'm running a test now in the lab with the reactors in respect to this, because as you know, once two sets are running with gas, with plasma, and one set is GANs. And as I said last week, I start moving the detector along the line between different sets. And it's very interesting that the strength of the reactors dropped quite a bit, as we were not here to monitor it in a way. We always very actively, every day we do something with them. Now they're doing their own natural process. I realized that the set one, which is a boxed one, was holding its plasma and its environment, but lower. So, but in the past weeks, we never, because we broke up the systems in formation, we just put a second set with the GANs in the middle and with the gas in the middle, and then we put the GANs system on the other side. Now that all the motors are off and only the gas material is rotating, and I move the outside detector from one position to another between the sets, as now I start feeding the center set with hydrogen, nitrogen, and helium, we see increase in the total environmental MAGRAF of the whole lab. It has increased, internally it has increased. And not strange enough, but as confirmation of correctness of the interaction of the fields, the reactor 1, which sits closer to the middle set, has dropped in power by around 30% in the past 3-4 days. We had something like, I think, 1.2 or 1.3 amps. Now we are down to about 0.93 something amps. And the last reactor, which is the furthest from the set, is still keeping its power, but strange enough, its total power has dropped by about 20% in the past 3-4 days, since I started loading the center reactor as well, and not ignoring it, because we concentrated on the set 1, which is on the left hand side, in working with it and feeding it, and we left the middle set on its own. It was just there because we knew it has a plasma. We left it on its own without doing anything with it. So I fed it with hydrogen for a couple of days. I start seeing the increase in the total environment, and then I start adding helium 2 days ago in the morning, and I added 1 hydrogen in the afternoon, and then yesterday I added a nitrogen in the morning and a hydrogen lunchtime, and I've seen a total increase in the whole, environmental magnev of the system in all three directions, but now we see suddenly reduction in the power supply to the motors of the GANSes, where up to before we start supplying gases into the center set, they were the same more or less from when the knowledge seekers left the last day, when Armand set it up, the last couple of days of it. So this shows a confirmation that the GANS materials do create their own magnetic field, and they are very much more powerful. What I see, because they are very small cores, and I think Armand put like 30-40% or 25% GANs in it, the rest are water. And this, by bringing now the middle set into operation, the three sets have started interacting. What I'm going to do in next week or two, I will feed every other day, like I missed the center point, to see the effect of the increase in the plasma of the outer set will affect the power of the GANs. So this is good for us, it's kind of measuring the GANs power. I'm just trying to remember, because it was something like 3.3 volts and 5.1 amps, and now it's about 2.9 volts and 3.8 amps. This is a special motor. We're waiting for one motor to be delivered. It uses more power than the others, but for past week it stayed at 3.3, 5.1, and since we start feeding the gases in the center core, that it starts the interaction between the three sets. The power has dropped from something like 16 watts to around about 12 watts, below 12 watts. And we've seen the same interaction with the core, which is near the middle set. So we start seeing very interesting results, interaction of the fields of the three cores, which are totally independent, and one contains water, natural water.
Mr. Keshe, there's a question in the live stream. The fellow says, of the gas reactors, I understand the function of spinning to produce the extreme UV, but I don't understand the purpose for spinning a GANS-based reactor. So could you explain a little bit about
GANS?
that?
GANS is a plasma, but in near matter condition. If you leave it, it settles at the bottom. So what we've done, we know if we take the liquid out of it, it dries out, becomes a powder. So we keep it with the water and dynamic, that the plasma itself rotates freely. Can we take the water away and add something else in the future to it, that it keeps the plasmas in their state? Yes, it can be done, but it's a development, and see where we go. If we take the moisture out of it as much as we can, I think we more or less, and leave it on its own, we get a brain construction. There still be interaction between the cores, but not what we are looking for achieving dynamic lift. We are looking into the lift and creating of the powerful fields for visualization of the entities. There is a reason I chose this, and as I always said, John knows that the future sits in ceramic. But you need, with a GANS material, if you leave them if you don't rotate them, they just settle. That's the structure of your brain. We've done that upstairs in the teaching room. We have a core which is sitting on its own, and it's converting us. As I look at it, more or less it's all white. You see the streams of field flow. And we lost our mountains in the center of it somehow. No, still there is on the other side. But we see the material standing still does not create the dynamic fields which you need. So instead of creating a plasma of, what do you call it, fields, not a plasma of hydrogen, once you're in the core, we used already created plasmas, miniature plasmas of the copper oxide and other materials. It's interesting to see how the reactors, each one shows its power, because as you know, each core has different GaNs in it. We have to move it. It has to be dynamic, otherwise it becomes like a brain. Any other question?
So I'd like to keep going on what I was actually trying to get at.
Okay.
Was that the due to the copper and we see the green in some conditions, and we see copper and zinc and we see the white in some conditions. I see brass has the composition of a lot of other materials besides copper and one single element. So I'm just trying to get across that I don't think we would see the same thing with brass as we would with the elements that contain the brass, if you can understand what I mean.
It's a composite.
Right, it's a composite. So you would receive something different because it would have the interaction of the fields at the molecular level instead of at the matter level.
Yes, yes, very much so. And if you can, if depends, go back one step backwards. As we explained about the releasing of the top layer atomic structure of the copper wire, when it becomes nano. Now, because you have a composite material, now it depends what has been released in that top layer, nickel, iron, or whatever they put in the brass. So that atomic structure, what is on the top layer at that point, will decide that what do you call it? That spectrum or the nanomaterial, or the GaNs which you release or you provide.
The reason I bring it up is because I'm still doing the experiment with the copper coated foil and the CO2 GaNs layered. So I still have to observe what's going to happen there. And I'm trying to relate it into terms of, instead of using the GaNs and the copper, but between using the different elements itself and layering that way. So I'm just trying to explain it to myself of I should see the same types of differences because of the absorption of the CO2 in the plasma and the absorption of the copper in the plasma. Then the layers of different materials should perform almost the same way. Can I see that right?
More or less, yes, but as we've seen in the lab, we produce a GaNs which is totally black, more or less near black. So,
but it's also the plasma of what the coating itself. So what we're seeing is the GaNs is, in my understanding, simply just the dynamic version that's let's say increased in size so you can see it, compared to the plasma version which is in the coating on the wire, let's say.
Exactly. That's what we said from the beginning. You free the plasma in three-dimensional in a liquid condition, where in a nano layer the condition around you see what happens in the nano layer. You have the copper on one side and the first layer which is produced on the top. So the center is like a cooking pot. but they're all individual beans as you could look at it inside the pot. And then when you bring it into a salt, you release
so
the
I had
beans.
also another way to explain.
Yeah. You see, when you
I'm
get
just
the
getting
black
a little bit
one.
delayed sometimes.
Yeah. Well, let me explain something. When you get a black GANs, these black GANs are the gases which absorb the full spectrum. We have it here in the lab. So this is a mixture that a few material atomic structure in the GANs state have become in one cell, a molecular, what do you call it, GANs. And that molecular GANs absorbs the full spectrum. So we have in the lab what we have on the nano layer, which absorbs the full spectrum. This material absorbs the full spectrum from the light in its environment. So you'll get black GANs as well, which we have in the lab. I always refer to it with the ion connection, but in a way, because of the atomic structure of the ion, this is the borderline of the lights on this planet atmospheric condition. So that's why you see them as black most of the time. But this is a molecular plasma state of GANs of the matter. You got to test, go to the beyond the limits of what you see and what we see here. Is for the scientists to start to teaching us as you do more tests. I'm pretty sure you can produce in the water with your ganses, if you know what to do and you learn in the process in the future how to create a plasma. And that's a plasma of the lymph. So if you understand the process in the long term, and you can put ganses of different materials in different combinations or outside the cup, inside the cup you can create a plasma of the lymph out of the water. In a way, you don't create lymph, but you put the energy which you need that lymph to carry to the body. So if you want the water to carry the, if you're short of, let's say, potassium or short of zinc in your body, you create that zinc in the water, the condition of the gravitational magnetic field of the zinc in a plasmatic condition as a GANs in the water in the container, and then you drink it. This is what we do with the health section. This is extending the knowledge. Now you built up these ganses. Now you see different colors. Different colors means they what they absorb and what they don't absorb. If you look at the plasmatic color of the zinc in the body and you understand that, then you can create a GANs which creates that color, and you cover your cup, and that gives you the energy to your water which you need as zinc to drink. In the space, we create these conditions through gravitational magnetic fields, that you are never short of minerals or different elements, because you can do that through atmospheric condition as we do ourselves. As I always say, we absorb 80% of our daily need through breathing and our skin. And something which I was explaining recently, a lot of materials which we don't need, or energies, magnetic plasma fields which we don't need, we reject it as fields from our body as well. Our body is not just an absorber, it's a rejector. It's just what it doesn't, what it takes, what it needs, and releases the plasma in a more or less the cancer state back into its environment. And then you see the interaction of these plasmas as what you call aura. That's why you have different colors of auras. When you can give as much as you like, and you can give in a free way, your aura becomes white, clear. same as the lymph. Becomes clear. This is the state of properties of God. Then when you see different auras, is a matter aura. Purple, pink, blue, and different part of the body. When you become transparent in aura and white, totally white, this is what you see as the state of properties of messengers of God. Because they give totally freely in the essence of the soul. So, if you do what you call it, creating different ganses using different materials, you have to understand the color of green or the shade of orange. This means what is not absorbed. Then you look for the color of, let's say, potassium in the body, or you need shortage of calcium. You mix the ganses to give you that color of the spectrum of the calcium. And then you put that in a cup, around the cup, or in a system, or in a reactor, and the material which carries it, which is usually by air or by your water, you feed it into the body. And the body, because it's in a gans plasmatic condition, absorbs it with no problem. This is why a lot of people think what we do in the health section is a magic. Is extending the knowledge. This is now, and this what I just explained is extending to the knowledge of people who are interested in the healthcare side. Then you can create dynamic plasma reactors, what we do now. That we do not need to create the GANs. We create the magnetic, gravitational magnetic field of the GANs, or the material which the GANs need, which the body needs. And then body takes from the reactor what it needs in that state. If you're short of calcium, if you need to repair a broken bone in a specific condition, in a specific point, all the bones of the body are not the same, even they look the same. So you can create a condition gravitational magnetically that at the point of fracture you speed up the production of the calcium, because you create the environmental field of that. This is what I did with myself when I had an accident 3-4 years ago. That's how I repaired my 10 fractured bones in a matter of less than a week using the technology. So you can use it. I know Elias sent me a picture yesterday for a broken wrist. The one which is splintered you cannot do because it's separated, it's not part of the structure. And if you try to heal it and connect it, it creates more problem. But you can do the fractures, you can literally speed up the fracture growth to heal, to breakage of the bone, to process, not to heal, to process within a matter of hours, if you know what to do, because you deliver the calcium needed in the exact combination which the body needs at the point when it's needed, instead of waiting for the body to bring the calcium in bits over 2-3 weeks. Your broken bone takes 6 weeks to mend, because so much calcium needed to come in the flow of the body is you have to wait. It's like a fisherman, you got to wait till the fish comes. But now with producing these systems, the way I've done, I've used it for my own cancer and my own broken bones, is I create it in the point when it's needed. So you don't wait for it to come, you transfer the plasma, you create a plasma condition that the lymph in that point transfers into calcium. So these are the things we teach in the coming time. But start learning just don't be passive about what you create. Go into detail, look at the colors. What color means what, the spectrum of the fields of which matters has been absorbed and not absorbed, that you see the color. The information about the colors are very, very much detailed. Go back into food production industry and look at the colors they produce, precise, using carbon. what do you call it, using coal from the mine. I explained this how they make the colors nowadays and why some people are allergic to certain colors. The colors, the spectrum of the colors gives you the spectrum, the material which your body needs too. You can use the knowledge in a different way. Nowadays you see, as I said, the ketchup, same color in 20 years time, in 30 years time, because they use, you are knowledgeable, you can go on the internet and learn it yourself, how they use coal to create specific colors. And then that carbon which you have to produce these colors links up with the oxygen in a specific way, or with the hydrogen in a specific way, that the release of the energy of the hydrogen leads to rapid release, and this is why you get hyperactivity or allergy to different certain colors. And that's why they put it on the side of your food, what color has been used, and they give you the code. It's not the color which you're allergic to, is the carbon which links up with the hydrogen, or the carbon which links up with the hydrogen and oxygen, and how the energy, how fast the energy is released. Then if your body cannot absorb, or it's got a surplus of it, then you get they say children they become hyperactive because they drink or a certain color food, because of the hydrogen release energy in the plasma condition, which is created by the carbon itself.
We had an interesting discussion last night regarding how to use the coating on donuts to make a solar cell, and it turns out that the white powder is
less for my mic.
Armin, your microphone is on. It turns out the white powder from donuts is actually titanium oxide, and you can take it off the donuts and basically pour it through a coffee filter, get the titanium oxide and put it on a slide, and basically you can make a solar cell out of this donut material. But the interesting part is they use the titanium oxide. They're allowed to use it. It's edible material. They use it in paint to make the paint white paint. But the interesting part is, for a solar cell, they have to dye it. And they dye it, in this case, with a passion fruit drink, because it has the right purple color to absorb the other... I'm not sure how the dye works, but it's a dye-type solar cell that can be made from these materials. So it's interesting about the colors.
I never knew about donut. I knew a lot about how donut powder is used. Is that the glazing white?
Yes.
Or is it powder white?
The white powder, not the glazing as far as the shiny glazing, but the white powder that they put on is like an icing sugar, but they put titanium oxide in the icing sugar to make it bright white. And it's non-soluble, so you put it in water, it dissolves the sugar, but it doesn't dissolve the titanium oxide, so it precipitates out in your coffee filter, and then you can scrape it out and use it for a solar cell.
What do you mean? Just boil it to get it out, or?
Well, yeah, you could use warm water, but even just water, the sugar, the sugar will dissolve, and any wheat or anything else that's put in the white powder will dissolve, but the titanium oxide will not dissolve in water. So it's a solid that you get from. You can use like half a dozen donuts and get enough material to create a tiny little solar cell and actually get power out of it.
That's a cheap way of getting titanium by donuts. This is how they crashed the market about 15, 20 years ago. People were buying all the shares in titanium, and then they flooded the market and they crashed the market. I heard a lot of things about powder on the donut, but this is a nice one. This is a nice one. I knew years ago they were using illegally the powder for trafficking, but this is new.
Yeah, so if the lights go out and you're at a donut shop, you might be in luck.
You can make luminous donuts.
Mr. Keshe, I got another nasty idea as usual. What's gonna happen if you have a nano-coated pin into a GANS reactor? Isn't gonna concentrate the plasma, and if you touch your skin, this plasma to go into your body with the fluid you need? Or with the energy you need?
There is a misconception, or maybe there are two things. First of all, if you put a GANS in a pin in the reactor, we've done it before. We broke one. You've seen the pictures with John. The first reactor broke up, and two of the reactors in the lab have a pin in the center. So as you concentrate this, I seen a video recently where the Russians have done tests with the plasma with the center wire, which they show the plasma concentrates around it, and it goes up and down. And so it proves what we've done now from other scientists learning that is correct. The plasma concentrates in the middle. So when I was looking at this plasma video by the Russians, it confirmed to me that what we are doing in putting pin in the center of the cores and holding the plasma is 100% correct. So my advice to you lot is to do that if you're making any kind of reactor. Make sure you have a center pin coated with nano coating on it to hold your plasma and you don't lose it. And we've shown this before, we explained it now, I've seen the proof of it. I can't remember who sent it to me, I think it was Dirk sent it to me recently, yesterday, the day before. The plasma, the GANS material, even you're handling it, you're absorbing energy from it. The containers of GANS's materials and containers you carry or you make or you siphon or you do, you continuously absorb energies in the level which is level with your body. It's not in the matter level, it's in the GANS level, and your body is in the GANS level. So you receive both gravitational and magnetic field of the both. You receive energy if you put your finger in it, or you don't do it, or make a system that is coated outside with the GANS around it, and you put your finger in the middle, you still receive energy in the form of what the spectrum allows you to receive through the layer. If you look at the cup of life, we've shown, these are not finished. A lot of people thought the cups are finished. These cups are not finished. When it's finished, we offer it. We put it out for people to be able to do it. There's two couple of more steps left to complete the cup of life. The nano coating from outside, in a way, does what you explained through, but it does it in a very subtle way.
My idea was basically, isn't be a better path if you use that nano-coated pin inside the reactor and touch your body with it, and you will have a way better, like, path.
I don't know. I don't know, you get charged up very quickly, huh?
Well, I don't know, but let's say if you have a broken bone and you touch the place with the nano pin, probably will get way more energy than having it around the reactor. So that will help the healing, I guess. Just logical explanation.
In a way, you can do that, but that's another direction of the creation of the plasma. You can do that. You can even in the steps further. If you go a step further in the health section, you can what do you call it? you can create the environment even around the cells which are not needed to allow them to change. I'll explain this in the future in the health section to the medical people. You can use these reactors for different purposes, but don't forget, as much as you can create a condition for, let's say, a broken bone, if you do not know what you're doing, you can create condition for solidification of the material around your bone or on your arm or in the tissues or whatever, that can lead to other diseases. This knowledge of the health has to be taught correctly by the people who are in the field.
There's a question regarding that from Amarok in the Skype, health-related question. Does it matter where and in what environment you fill the cups of life with water? For example, when there are aggressive people around or electro-smog from cell phone towers and so on. In other words, does any outside influence get attracted to the inside of the cups?
Yes, everything does. Every field which is in, even the decay of your clothes, even the decay of the table you put a cup on, is absorbed, the energy is absorbed by the cup. But the cup releases in what is needed. You take from it, when you make your cells, you will understand, when you make your energy cells, you understand that you take from it what you need and not what you don't need. Doesn't matter what is absorbed. This is what we go back to the frog. Why the structure of the frog has changed. Oh, I think it's changed. We'll see it in the long run. We'll keep this frog for a few years, most probably as long as it can live. If there was a need for mutation to go back and see the change in the DNA, so the means that there was a misbalance. That misbalance has led to the creation of the frog. But is the structure of the fish the full balance? We don't know yet. We've got to see how this animal turns up, if it's going to stay a frog or changes or be a different shape and color frog. Because here we have his brothers and sisters as a full frog. The same tadpoles have become frogs and we see them every day. So once we capture one, we hold, then we can compare what has changed. We have a free range running around, and we have the one which is in the box and one which is get fed CO2, and we'll see the effect of the GANs on the change of DNA. But with the nano layers, you get a balance of what you need into the water. Not everything goes in, and you take only from the water what you need. Will it change the structure of the DNA? We don't know. This is to be understood. But do we need part of the change in the DNA to stop a lot of diseases? Maybe we do. We don't know. This is for the world of science to open up. We have got our foot into a very big, what do you call it, a kitchen. And now we've got to see what we can cook and what can come out of it. It's a huge, huge new Pandora box of science. Everything can be seen, everything is not hypothetical, everything is physical. You cannot imagine, because it's there, you see the interaction, you understand the changes. I'm sure once we release the picture of the frog, there'll be a lot of people interested to see what the frog looks like, and if it is. I'll try to download it for next time before the knowledge seekers come, that you can see it. But the container, the cups of life absorb the full spectrum. That's why they're. But don't forget, because they're plasmatic, as I said, it looks like a gap on the matter, or a plasma and the gap between the what we call Magra positioning. In that gap is full of fields. So what field you absorb is what gets into that, what you call the gap, the separation, and then it gets fed into the center plasmas. So you increase into the mass of the plasma, so you change the matter by mass. So in the long run, even though you have the same black dark matter, the material, the mass of the plasma inside is not the same. And that's how you, as I explained, if you put too much in, the plasma layer explodes if you do it that way. But if it's absorbed into the magnetic field, gravitational field, so you add to the mass of the plasma. So if you keep a nano layer and you produce it today, and you change it to a GaNs, and then if you leave it for, let's say, 2 or 3 months or 10 years, and leave it in an active environment of whatever, would the GaNs, when you produce it, be the same as the GaNs you had originally? Because you absorbed more energy from the environment, more gravitational magnetic field, and so it carries a different potency or different mass of the fields. This is what we will see in the future.
Okay, so another nasty question as usual. Is it possible instead of cup to make this one a cylinder?
Make it any shape. We are looking at different shapes at the moment. We are looking at the bend shapes, cross shapes, folded shapes, because you create different environments. One fold or one curve can give you, let's say, zinc, and the other curve and the fold can give you copper. Of course, you create in one part of the cup, you create copper, and in one part of the cup you create zinc, and one part of the cup you create calcium, depends how you shape it. One of the first questions we had, that when the wire is bent, would it create different nanolayers? Of course, because it creates different environment.
No, my idea was different, like having your, let's say, hand broken. If you make it a cylinder and have it on the space of the breaking, that's the easy way to receive what you need.
Yes, but you have to create the right plasma for it. You have to create the right, if you create the right environment, yes, it takes it. We do that quite a lot. I create these things for my animals in the house. If my dog or the chickens twist their leg, or you see them limping and they're really in pain, I know their structure. I make a pad for them. They sit in it half an hour, and you say just walk off with no pain. Before they couldn't even move. We had an incident in past 2 weeks. We have a new chick in the house, so I think the cat chased him. He couldn't do anywhere. Would have become the food to the cat. So I made a pad for him, and he sat there for 2 days, and now he's as healthy as anything. And the recommendation on the internet was just twist his neck, because they never repair. And my wife said, no, we're not going to do this to him. So now we have a chick running around just using the same. We extend the knowledge in very much in understanding. We do not know the limits. At the moment, if you release the knowledge in one go, it already has created a lot of problem for us. And so you have the copper, you create the lights. Maybe in the next week or two, our Japanese colleagues will show the commercial unit of the torch. Hopefully, if we can finish it with them. There are a lot of developments on the other aspects of the technology. As you know, with the same absorption of the fields and radiations, we have gone very far in development, and we will announce this now. Will be announced by the organizations, not by the foundation anymore, because this way they say it brings credibility if we don't announce it ourselves. So the next step is in that direction. We can show a lot of things to be built and to be done, but you lot have to tell the rest of us what you learned and how you do it. We started the process, now it's in your hand. Make a different color coating, see how you achieve different colors. Then understand that always from now on, do not look at the black. Now that you start using, what do you call it, brass, look at the colors the brass creates. Then understand what these colors mean. What spectrum of the plasma you're absorbing and what you're not absorbing. Then it tells you what material is possible, what condition is possible to create. This is what is done in the in the health cups. They open the cups and say, oh, it's all magnets, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we use magnets to contain the plasma for the condition we need. This is the stupidity of the people. It shows their ignorance again. Oh, I have shown the difference between the square magnet and the round magnet, magnet with a hole, magnet without a hole. We'll spend one day here because I got it on the lab. I have literally left 2 tables full of magnets for knowledge seekers to try to explain to them in the process. I don't know, that a few weeks ago, I got the knowledge seekers to stand on top of the tables in the lab. Not to look at the magnets on the side, but look at the magnets, spherical magnets, magnets with a hole and whatever, as overview, not as something on the side you play with. Because now you understand the interaction of the magnetic fields as a GANs, not as just a square or a round magnet. These are the things you have to add to the knowledge yourselves and teach each other, and leave it in open for the others to use it. There is no hesitation in releasing the knowledge, but at the moment, as I was saying before, is a spoon feed. We have to tell you what to do, what's next. What about you doing it and tell us this is what I did and this is what it gives. And if you want to produce something for the bone, this is the procedure. The health is open to public. You extend your knowledge, now you understand. But stop looking at the black and this. Start looking at the colors, what it gives you. Start to understand the position you do. You can make different cups and bring them together and leave them for a while. And you will see the color of the cups will change because they absorb fields and they change themselves. These are the things you got to learn, and the scientists have to learn and teach the others. But there are those who want to be a spoon-fed, and that's it. If it's not what I want, is something wrong with you. This is a hypocrisy at the moment we are stuck with. I've received a lot of emails. Can we help with the situation in Africa with the disease which is going around? Can we? We don't know. We have asked the government of Sierra Leone. We have very close connections with them because they're involved in it. If we can run some trials, if that is allowed, then we will participate in that procedure, in that environment, to see if it can be done. And it can create a sterilized condition that the disease does not transfer. But it's done through liquid. We are not there to be able to affect this. Well, how it's going to be done? I see ways of doing it, but we got to see and to allow us to see how we can get involved. But it's very, very, it's literally impossible the way I see it, as it's transferred between the liquid of the body.
So something else. I don't like to be spoon-fed. I use fork for that. Anyway, so
you can use chopsticks if you like.
Yeah, well, another sort of question or statement is, these cups, I think they should be individual because personal plasma is different. So is that gonna react different on different people?
You take from the cups what you need. You take from them what you need when you absorb it. It's very much like when you eat food. What you don't need, you reject. In the plasmatic condition in the GAN state is the same. You only take, because you create a gravitational magnetic field which is a void or it's a short, so it releases. That's how your lymph works. Your lymphs come according to the gravitational magnetic field of what is in that environment which is created, which gives the indication of what it has to be replaced and how it's to be replaced. It's not that, a cell dies and then it waits for another cell to, it might be produced. The cell to replace is already available because it creates a void, a gravitational magnetic condition into the lymph, that the lymph in that point needs to cover that void in that environment. This, you take from these cups what you need, but you have to make a spectrum of the energies, and at the same time you have to know how to release these energies into the cup, into the water. We teach this very soon. In the next couple of sessions, or when the knowledge seekers comes, Arman is good at this to do it. So when he comes back, we'll finish the cups, the water, cups of life or the food. Then they are available to be released. And we'll see what happens. There is something which is happening, I have to tell you. We discussed it with the webmaster. If he can do it as usual, he does things his way. There has been a lot of call for us. People want to download the patterns on the USB stick. What we've done is that if you want to download the patterns and whatever is on the USB stick, freely is on the internet. But if you want to use them to donate to the foundation for further research, from next couple of weeks we put them on the what do you call it, section for papers. So if you have downloaded it, or you want to download it again, or contribute to the foundations, or you want to download it directly, you can download it through the website of the foundation. The paper of the nano materials will be on the site as well as soon as I finish. Then Dirk puts the pictures up with it. There's a lot in the nano paper which you can follow for your work. Yes. Somebody was asking a question.
Yes, Mr. Geshe, it was me. I wanted to ask if, assuming that you have produced, let's say, proper nano-coated wire or any material, is it feasible, is it possible to create any known material? So, for example, I use copper wires and I nano-coat them. If I can put them in the right condition, if I can create the right conditions, can I create any nano material or nano element? In other words,
yes.
I will not only be depending on the content of the copper wire, because if you have copper and copper, you can have copper oxide. But what I'm looking at, using copper and copper to do anything.
Yes. You have to find the positioning and what you put across it. We done that, as I explained, it's happened in the lab. We have a copper and zinc. We used to have a CO2, and now it's all become CH3. We used to have 2 red, 1 white, and 1 red, and it was there for weeks. The environment changed because of a motor. Now they're all red. We have no more white. So the condition changed. It produced now all CH3. So if you create a condition, you can change them. This is what happens in your body, and I explained this before. The material which is to be produced is dictated what is needed, where is needed by your parotid glands and your gland. Using your thymus, it happens in that position. The same lymph needs to become a calcium, or the same lymph needs to become a part of the neurosystem. The same lymph becomes part of your heart. You create a condition and environment for it, and that's it. So you can do the same. If you need, let's say, zinc from your copper-coated materials, you can do so. Somebody's typing in the background.
Rick, can you?
Thank you, Mr. Geshe. And I just shared the picture. I just shared some picture with Rick. Maybe you can forward them to you later on. Basically, I was trying to find out. I made some copper coil, and I nano-coated these wires. Now, because they are rotated in a rotational, like rings or like winding, I'm assuming that these winding, because it's a magnetic and a gravitational field, it's a plasmatic magnetic and gravitational field. It behave pretty much like a magnet. So the nano-coated between these wires, or nano-coating between these wires, shows some residues, and I'm just wondering if that would be fine to be used in any production of nanomaterial, or do I have to make sure that these residues are not there?
Depends if there are GaNs or there are matters. In part of the test we've done or been done for us by different institutes, we don't see always the GaNs, because the GaNs, it changes itself to partially matters as well if the condition is right in your container. Depends what you have as a residual and how you can explain it, because we see clearly residuals of calcium, and they're literally like flakes of bone in the bottom of your container. When you extract your CO2 from the bottom of your container, just don't think that everything is CO2. When you float it and you look at the bottom, you see like a small flakes. Raman spectroscopy has shown these are pure calcium. These residual depends how and what they are, but if you create a condition, maybe you can change the nano-GaNs into GaNs matter. So very much like a bone structure. Or can you change directly the GaNs into the matter if the condition is right, but we are not inside, we don't observe everything which is happening in these containers. You got to understand what you have residual. We had a residual, as we said, like a salt coming out of the container growing outside it. But these are conditions, environments, and that's how life exists. Very soon we will see new developments in the material production, because the scientific world has got hold of this, how easy it is to produce these nanolayers in a zero cost. Now the sandwiching and the layer sandwiching will become part of the flow in electronics.
Now, Mr. Geshe, I do have a couple of other questions with regards to a soul. In the past session, you had spoken about schizophrenic and how that is now, we understand it's two twins or two souls with existing in a single body on one body. And I wanted to ask whether it is possible for a single soul to exist on more than one body. So you could have one soul, assuming it has reached, the required maturity, to be able to exist in more than one person. Is that something which is known to exist?
The Prophet of God carried two souls, but the soul as a prophet, as messengers, exists in two dimensions. One in the physicality of the man, and one in the dimension in connection with their own direction and their own dimension.
Okay.
So
and
even we occupy the physicality of the man, and the man's body has its own soul. The body carries the soul of the physicality and the soul of the messenger. And the messenger is not just because it's here, it's disconnected from its own environment. And this is how knowledge is transferred. This is how we are aware and we can live two lives. We live in the body of the man as messengers, and we carry the information from outside in. At the same time, the body has created its own soul before it receives the soul. So it's not a schizophrenic condition. It's the body, the soul can, in the specific, somebody's microphone is open. The body is used for the purpose. We've seen this very much with Blessed Soul, the Christ. We've seen that very much in the life of his blessed name Muhammad. In certain points in their life, they are aware of the two, and sometimes the physical side soul is left on its own, and that's where some mistakes are made. So you can live in two dimensions, but not necessarily in two physical bodies. This is the attributes of the prophets of God, or the messengers of God.
There was a direct Facebook statement regarding that I'd like to bring up now. It was in regards to the happy birthday greetings that Mr. Keshe had a few days ago. August 2nd was his birthday. And
thank you very much for everybody. Thank you very much for all your...
Yes, thanks. There was hundreds of people in the Facebook that wished you a happy birthday and so on. So one of the comments that was placed in the Facebook, I'll read it to you. I've sent this to Mr. Keshe, and he wanted me to bring it up in the workshop as a question, and it relates directly to what we were just speaking about here. So the comment came from somebody called Corey, who says, "Happy birthday, Mr. Keshe. My father died last night, and would appreciate prayers for a good man's soul to be directed in its right plasmatic position within the universe. Regards, Mad Scientist." And then he goes on to say, he had a chance, he was speaking about his father, he had a chance to hold his first nano copper wire before he died, and he liked what I showed him. I hope this helped his soul achieving the spectrum of the light. 76 years old. Regards, Mad Scientist. And that kind of hit me kind of deeply, because I wondered about that, and I asked Mr. Keshe, let me just see, let me get the exact statement up here because it's kind of important. Let me see here, just a second. So I had a couple of questions for Mr. Keshe. One would be, can prayers help direct a soul to its correct plasmatic position in the universe? Or will that soul get to that position anyway on its own? And number two would be, could that soul's plasmatic position change slightly with the introduction of the knowledge of that nano-coated wire, or by holding that wire at the end of a human lifetime? So what do you think about that, Mr. Keshe?
I have explained this before in other conversations, and I think in the workshops. When you pray for a soul, doesn't matter if the person is alive or his soul has separated from his physical body. What is a prayer? What is what you direct to give? Emotions is gravitational magnetic field base. So what you do, you give part of your field into their fields to increase their mass. And each mass has its own level and its own understanding. It's like the plasma of the GANs. Each mass has different colors. So is the soul of the man. When you pray for your father, you give part of your soul in a field way to the father. So you create, you give the mass into it. It's like what we said, it's in the same box, but as we change the environment, it receives different fields, the color changes. Becomes from the CO2 to CH4, or it becomes to copper oxide, so it increases in mass. So when you give your blessing or your thoughts to a person, you elevate, you change the field of that body, and so it receives in different levels, in different spectrum. This is one of the reasons we pray for our parents. This is one of the reasons we pray for people we know. It doesn't necessarily need to be, they separated their emotional part from the soul part. You add to the mass, you give and you change the environment. And I refer this quite a lot to you know, I was very much let me answer something. I'll come back to you later because it has to be done the right way. When you say you gave nano piece of material to your father before his passing, blessed soul, you allowed him to absorb what he needs according to what he was stated to him. That was what you gave in a physical dimension as a plasmatic magnetic field. What he carried with that information to his soul, you don't know. We don't know what he absorbed. What did he need to absorb? Because the body takes what it needs. If you hold that piece of wire in your hand after it's passing every time, and you give part of your soul to it and say, take what you need, then his soul knows his level where it is, what it needs to be elevated to or be stationed in to get the mass what it needs in the dimension it needs. So you give, but as always is, the other soul has to be able to receive it, be willing to receive it, being in the need to receive it, because it knows its own state and it knows its own potential. You can give to it as much as you like, but if in its environment where it is stationed, where it's placed, where it is, there is a need to give to the other souls to reach him, you'll find out your praise will add to him and him to the others to be elevated to his level. This is what I always say. When I pray, when I give my soul, I give to all of humanity, to all the creatures in the universe. Because then one doesn't get more of it, everybody takes what they need. I had a very strange experience on my birthday. I usually sleep 4 hours, which is maximum. And I slept nearly 8-10 hours. And from the minute I went to sleep, I said to myself, for the whole humanity to take as much as you like from this soul, that we can bring peace. And I woke up in the morning and I said to my wife, they took a lot. They've been so busy that the physical part didn't want to wake up. This is the reality. This is the reality. It's part of the structure of what is happening and what it is. I stopped trying to pray for one group or one thing or trying to elevate them. It seems that the humanity as a whole needs elevation in a very rapid way. I was very ashamed to listen to one of the world leaders that in his talk, he says, killing of children is his right, and he's very proud of it. And he's one of the present world leaders that in his talk he says killing of the children is his right. For this reason, I cancelled the whole of the religious leaders meeting, because he does it in the name of his faith and is advised by. So I'm going to change the name and the advices of these people by elevating their souls, not by punishing them. When one of the world leaders says killing of the children is his right, and it stands up and is very emphasizing that it is his right to do so, to kill children. And then he turns around and he says to the person we all know, it is the public press, that you understand why we are killing the children. The Prime Minister, your soul has been elevated. Punishing it will never understand. And you know who you are. The situation is, pray, not just for your father, pray for the whole of humanity. Because humanity needs elevation. What I see and what I hear in the past few weeks, I have moved my teaching from physicality to a dimension which the man doesn't understand when we can reach. And it will be a much faster process. Punishing man does not help. Elevating it, because he doesn't know need for it, it will move away from it. As you know, yesterday was the point of Hiroshima. And in 3 days' time, it's Nagasaki. I was told what happens when so many souls suddenly disappear. 100,000, 200,000. Nothing. All it happens, they add to the soul of this planet, as I explained before. But the problem is that the people who made it and built it, they are still paying in the doldrums of their own soul. This is what we need to do by making more advanced arms and killing more. It will not help. And we'll see what will change and how it will change. When you pray, don't pray just for your father. Open your soul and say, take whatever is needed. You'll find out you have more by tomorrow morning. Because it's exactly like a GANs. It takes what it needs and it gives to what it needs to keep in the state with the other GANSes in this environment.
Mr. Keshe, I was wondering whether you think we might see a demonstration of some of the technology to remove the weapons of war, or to make them useless in a situation like you just mentioned.
We are negotiating. We are negotiating. I have started negotiation, and the demonstration of it will be most probably in paralyzing, what do you call it? the weapons themselves without harming any individual.
Yeah, if you take away their toys, then the boys won't be able to play.
No, they can have their toys. They can have their toys when the toys are just toys and not the tools of killing. Will be there. We've seen the operation with the Russian Air Force and American Navy. What we said, they'll become the tops. We'll pursue the same pattern of work. Peaceful way, but diverting the attention from military into peaceful application of the technology. This is what I explained very recently. I don't see any reason for Japanese government changing their ethos of making tools to protect themselves. Leave it to us, we'll protect you. The technology which is now transferred to the Japanese will give them enough power that they don't even need to think about armies and military. They are very clever in developing it. And we'll see where we're going to go and how they're going to do it. But building more arms will not help. Showing that the arms have no application, no use, will change a lot. In a way, the shame comes in so many ways. In past 3 weeks we've seen thousands of people have been killed and made homeless and injured. For what reason? For a piece of land that is not going to be there, but causing so much suffering. We have one rule: we take the tools away, and when we wish it will happen, but in the correct way. Both sides have to understand there has to be acceptance of each other's right to exist. But it sells a lot of money. A lot of women are on summer holidays with the weapons which their husbands sold, and this 1,800, 900 children and women and men got killed by, huh? You got to understand where the money, these, you see destruction of a whole city. That bomb was paid for, and somebody's wife is having a beautiful holiday on Bahamas, and the other wife is dead, and a child is born without a mother. That wife has a suntan made of, coated with blood on it. But then they say, why do we get a skin cancer? Yes, because they came through the way they praise and the losses of the child who lost his mother. And then say, why my children are so much sick and so much this is to do with the food, and they try to kill us. No, you do it through yourself, your own actions. On the coast and the beaches of the world and gambling the money which came freely in the casinos from their husbands and themselves being in the weapon technology. Those children who are killed in different positions in the past few weeks, those souls have to find their place. So because they have to find their position, they take from where it was taken from the soul of those people who made them, their wives, their children, because their balance has to come. Maybe now you understand why there is so much disease in the West and so much disease in the pagan countries which they make weapons. Because when you harm the soul of that child who was going to suffer for another 30 years without a mother, he has to be replaced by another mother. And when you take something, you change the balance, the body gets cancer. So enjoy yourself in the suntan Bahamas. Because your soul is paying for it and your body will pay for it. When the world leaders understand this, they will ban, they'll walk away from every position with to do with arms. Because it's them who authorize it. When the world leader says killing of the child is his right, God knows I don't want to be in his place or in his soul, and we've taken any feeding of his soul from that point on. That soul has to find his own position. I wonder how it will be paid. Next question.
I have another question also with regards to scripts of the issue of the soul. I have observed. I have a relative who, when he used some substances, let's say alcohol or any other material, any other substance, which basically he get drunk or he get high from smoking. He developed schizophrenic condition whereby he changes. And the way he changes that, we actually see a totally different person. As a matter of fact, there was time when he became completely schizophrenic condition, whereby they had to give him a lot of drugs to calm him down or to bring him down. So he had to sleep so many hours to to become normal again. And even after this medication, we can still see that he is in that condition. And I was simply wondering whether can substance, things like alcohol or things which play with the mind, somehow bring the second soul which was in the body, for example, but it was not detected. And one more thing is that this brother or
let
this
me
relative.
let me answer you this question. Then you ask me the second question.
Okay, thank you.
The alcohol is not the cause. The alcohol is a byproduct. This is what a lot of people come, and there's a lot of, as you know, I've done a lot of research in the schizophrenic. I have 30 years of this, what do you call it, this disease. Not this disease, this condition. It's a condition. It's not an illness. What happened? When you are stressed and you cannot take the pressures of life, or you had enough working whole week, what do? You go on a holiday, you take a weekend off to rest, to handle the situation. People with a schizophrenic do not become schizophrenic because they take drugs or they take alcohol. Because they know their condition, to escape from it, from one part which is a controller of the physical body, they drink or they take drugs to take a rest. So the second character at that point has a chance to show itself. This is the wrong way you're looking at it. Because of drinking or alcohol, they become a schizophrenic. No. The second part, or the second, it's not the soul, second conscious part of the body, which has got its own soul. There are two consciousnesses in the body of the same body. When you are twin, you have two consciousnesses in two different bodies. In the structure of the schizophrenic, you have the same brain but carries two consciousnesses. Two conscious, but these two consciousnesses control one physicality. So when the physical part of the consciousness part of one part which you know all your life cannot handle the pressures or the work of the other conscious part which is trying to take over the body, it takes a rest. So what they do, they take alcohol or they take drugs to allow to free themselves, that body can do whatever, because at that time I'm not in charge, he can do whatever he likes. So you see the other consciousness. You don't see the soul, you see the other consciousness which is in the same structure of the brain. So the alcohol and drug is not the cause of a schizophrenic. Is in a way of one consciousness having enough, taking a rest, and in that moment the other one takes over, and then you start seeing both, because once one knows how to take part of the physical control, will not let go. So understand this fully. It's not the alcohol or the drug which causes schizophrenic. The alcohol and the drug is in a way of one consciousness having had enough, with trying to manage the other one for so long that in that moment of physicality the other one has the time to show itself, and then it becomes part. If you speak with your relation in a matter of, okay, you speak two, we understand both, you'll find out there'll be no need for drugs or alcohol, because then you respect both consciousness, and then each consciousness has its own soul. You don't speak with the soul. It's a physicality when it sits in the structure of the same brain. So don't blame alcohol. This is what is done normally. Say, oh, he became alcoholic and became a schizophrenic. He took drug and he became a schizophrenic. No, because he could not handle the work of the other conscious part. It takes a rest. So at that time, the other one can show itself. And then they give them drugs and more drugs to control what it cannot be controlled. If you can give a drug to one of the twins and hoping you can control the other one, then you can do the same with the schizophrenic. That's why drugs don't work with the schizophrenic. It's a reality which the modern medicine has not understood. This is the reality which you don't understand, then you blame it on the drugs, on alcohol. The physicians have to understand the schizophrenic is a natural process of two consciousnesses in the same brain, in the same part. It's like two atoms. You have 3 or 4 consciousnesses in the same body. As you have triplicates, you see 7 of them born from the same mother. If these 7 would have not had a physicality, would have stayed in the body of one of them, then that character would have had 7 characters, because the soul were created, but this time it was split to the bodies. So please, when you speak, if you can get to your relative or whatever, or you have aware of the schizophrenic who say they took alcohol, they became, no. They take alcohol to be able to take that rest, because it usually comes in certain ages, because they cannot manage it, they cannot handle it, and depends on the strength of the character of the first consciousness, how strong it is, or till it can go, and then how it can be done. We all of us have the capability to become a schizophrenic.
Actually, that was about to be my next question. If most of us or many of us may be having two conscious, but because we have somehow managed to cope with it without ourselves knowing about it, so we basically live our lives then, I mean, every day, and we yet don't understand it. But maybe every now and then things happen which brings us to different awareness of ourselves.
We all have the capability to become a schizophrenic according to the structure of our brain. It's the structure of our brain which allows the capacity of multiple consciousnesses in the brain in one cell. This is why you find the schizophrenics extremely intelligent people. They are extremely kind, extremely intelligent, and the violence you see from them is just that because one character is not allowed to show his existence. The violence is not from the totality, it's part which is trying to show its existence. We were sitting on a table with 2 children recently, next table. One was 6, 7 years old and one was 3 or 4 years old. And the 3 or 4-year-old one was a sweet talker and he was the center of attention. And the 5 or 6-year-old one was sitting on the lap of the mother and crying just because their finger was touched. They had to put a Coca-Cola on, they have to pay attention. There was no tears, just a noise of cry. This is the same thing with the schizophrenic. One gets all the attention and the other one doesn't, so he has to do something to get the attention. I exist too. And this is what the world of medicine has not understood about this illness. This condition is not an illness. Because we are too physically evolved and physically conditioned. Schizophrenic is the man who wears different clothes every day. If you look at the birds and animals, they have one clothes, so they try to demonstrate it and show it to attract the other sex, the other partner, or show their anger. Man wears different clothes according to the moods of his soul, his consciousness. You're happy, you wear different colors. You're sad, you wear different colors. So you're a schizophrenic. This is what has happened, but we don't look into the depth of what we do and how we do it. And schizophrenic is not an illness. It's a condition which the man has not understood. And they have two consciousness, and each consciousness has its own soul because it works through it. You can pray for one of them or you can pray for both of them.
Or you can communicate openly.
Of course, you have to. It's the lack of understanding of the society which puts these people in this position. They become aggressive because they cannot show themselves. If we respect both, if you see in the Siamese twin, which one is, one has a different boyfriend and another one has a different boyfriend. Their lives has been well documented. You can watch it on television. It's being shown quite regularly. Each one takes his own turn because there are two heads, one body, to have their life with their partners. Because we see two heads, we have respect for two people. With the schizophrenic, it's the same thing, but the structure of the face doesn't exist, but it's the same body. But the brain has located in the same position, the soul, the structure. This is the lack of understanding of the man, but not the creation of God. It's perfect. Both are perfect. We see it to be shame. Pardon?
What about bipolarity?
Bipolarity doesn't exist. To me, bipolarity is the same as a schizophrenic. Exactly. It's a new name. Yeah, it's a new name. It's been put on. The part of bipolarity, they call it bipolarity, it shows, you have a different, if you have a schizophrenic, you're a schizophrenic. Bipolarity is partially schizophrenics, they call them this name. Or you show different reaction to different condition, and people don't understand it.
Okay.
But you hide it behind behavior. There's very much, we did a test in Belgium 2 or 3 years ago. There was a guy who tried with every gimmick to get to the foundation, and it was apparently, then we found that it was a group of them. These people are perfectly normal people, and then they say when they come to places where there are the telephone masks, they get nausea, they get dizziness, they get sick or whatever. And their behavior changes. Is this bipolar? Or when we did the test, we did some, because I accepted that as part of a research, then we found out that according to the metal content in their blood, they receive different frequencies or fields of the communication lines, so irritates them or creates them uncomfortable position. Are they bipolar? They were told they're bipolar because of this thing, and we found out that the increase in the iron in the blood has a direct effect into it. They had a different iron reading, most of these people. You bipolar, to me, if you're a schizophrenic, bipolar is you show your reaction to it, but people don't understand why you're behaving this way. Even you're not unconscious of it. Or in your subconscious, you know why you're doing it. This is, you have to start defining everything exactly what it is. Just don't add it. It makes a lot of money. It sells a lot of medicine for pharmaceuticals, but it doesn't solve the problem.
So does it mean that a bipolar knows that he's schizophrenic?
He is not a schizophrenic. But if you're a schizophrenic, if you're bipolar, it's just the way you show your reaction to your environment. Doesn't make you a schizophrenic, huh?
So it's exactly the same situation, bipolar or schizophrenic. Yes. It's just a name we put to do something.
No. Bipolar is the behavior of a man in respect to his environment. A schizophrenic is a two consciousness in the same body. Okay. It's totally different things. Totally different thing. There it goes my breakfast. I fully confirm the truth of Mr. Kesh's explanation. I have many years, speaking to years for experience. Let me explain something very clear. Makes too much noise. My wife just brought me my breakfast, so sorry about the bit of noise. You have to go into the depth of the structure. You have to understand the structure. In the same cell in your reactors, in your cells, you make ganses. You make two different ganses, but you're not aware of it because you're only looking for one. If you look at your copper oxide in detail, you will find in it CO2 too. Now, is your cell schizophrenic, or is you who didn't see the other side and you only were looking for the blue? The same situation exists in reality because your plasmas, your cells are living entities. One has a consciousness in colors and one has consciousness in physicality of the movement. So you have to decide. It's you who's at fault, not the person who has to. If you blame having a blue eyes as a problem, then it's your problem because a lot of people love blue eyes. It's the same thing with the schizophrenic. It's the same thing. The people who come and show themselves this new terminology as bipolar is misconduct which we cannot explain, and the person hides it very well. When I've had people which they say they come with bipolar, for me it's very easy to separate them if they're schizophrenic or bipolar. And then you find out a lot of bipolarness is a lot of ADD or ADHD, ADD mainly, which needs to show itself in a different way. Because when you show two different categories, people have to watch what you do so you're in control. To me, a bipolar is another version of attention deficiency. But if there is somebody with a schizophrenic, you can clearly say that I have done enough work in this environment for over 30 years. To me, for myself, I don't care about the scientific world. There's a very clear distinction between these things. You'll find a lot of people who go through the Keshe Foundation process. Maybe this is a warning to a lot of you who have been to us or used our technology in your health side, is that we find out a lot of people who come we always tell them, can you please send us an email every Monday? And then you find out after 5 or 6 months, every Monday becomes every 2 or 3 Mondays, and then every 3 or 4 Mondays, and then gradually we don't hear from them. And then they come back and they say, nothing has changed after 6 months or a year. And I go through the list of what they've written themselves. Has this changed? Has this changed? Has this changed? Yes, it's your own writing. You could do this, and you're still doing them, yes. But why are you feeling or you're telling us nothing has changed? Then you get to it is just because they got better and they don't fake their illness, they lost their attention when they were sick, or they were really sick. So now they pretend to be sick, that they do not lose the attention they were getting, or they cannot do what they have to do now that they are better than they couldn't do. And you find out these people never get in touch back with the foundation again, because they realize the hand is open to us. Maybe they can fool the others. Is this bipolarness, or this is a man abusing another man? Because when you're sick, you go, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? So you are center of attention. You're sitting on the seat of kingship. When you're okay, nobody comes and tells you anything. You have to do your cooking. Now you're good. The husband wants you to cook. And now you don't want to cook because you're not getting the attention, thank you very much, by the food. So you pretend to be sick. Oh, are you okay? I do the cooking. I do this and that. So part of the development of technology, we've seen a lot of false ADD, which is a matter of control. And once they get on the seat of control, they don't want to lose. So is this bipolarness? So we have a full dossier from everyone who comes to us, and then they say nothing has happened. Can I have a refund? We are the only foundation, as we've been told, we ask for a refund. No foundation ever refunds any research because they think they found the loophole. We'll answer to these in the coming time. You steal from yourselves and the others. So they come, they come with their pains, and they have no pain, but then they have to pretend to have the pain because they lose their what do you call it? Their attention that you were getting as they were sick. We know that with cases we can show, we videoed to show this clearly. Is that a bipolarness or is that a schizophrenic? Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, yes, please. I do have another question, if I may. Now we understand that the universe or the space will not be a welcoming place for us if we go out there with these types. Sorry?
Who said that is not welcoming? We are here to welcome you. It's you denying yourself.
I know. I know. This now we have been welcomed to the space, but at the same time, you have made comments that space does not need animosity. When you go into space with this animosity, there we will come across those who will not allow these types of behavior. And this is true, and it should not be just on space, but even here on this planet. We have to take this away. Now, my question is, how do we go about as people, also with regards to the behavior that you have been talking about, people pretending to be sick or not sick, how do we go about removing these
Can I ask you a question?
Character?
Why?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please. Yes, go ahead.
The answer sits within you. If you think, or if you value yourself and your soul and your consciousness to be the correct one, it is within your soul to elevate everybody else to your level. Then we achieve the goal. If you think, because people are schizophrenic, they talk one thing and they do something else, they go and march for peace and they work in an armament factory. So if you think your soul, if you think within yourself, your inner being, you are the one who wants to elevate man to achieve, to reach the universal peace and be able to live in peace, Don't look for somewhere else. Give from you to them to become to your level. And you find it much easier. Because the more you give, the more is there to receive, to give. The more you empty the jar to fill a cup, the more room is in the jar to be filled in. Don't look for an answer. The answer sits within you. If you think you are correct, and you are the judge of your own doing, then elevate everybody to your level. And then the others who are different level higher than you will elevate you to their level. So the whole lot will move up. This is the habit of man. Give me a solution. But the solution sits within you because you don't even believe in what you believe in. So you don't need, this is what I said, we bring man to the level that they all will understand. The one in the jungles of Africa or in the jungles of Amazon, and the man who calls himself president. Maybe he needs to receive from the man in the jungles of Amazon for him to be elevated to their soul because he's low enough. Any other question?
If I may finish what I was about to ask. In one of the workshop, you mentioned that it is possible to remove that part within of man which makes him create animosity around himself. Either we can do it ourselves, or as a technology we can use it to remove that part. And I wanted to ask, can we learn about this? What can we use? I know using reactors we can do that. We can be able to meditate easily to reach that part within ourselves, to be able to find peace within ourselves.
You know what you're asking me?
No,
what you're asking me, what you're telling me, you consider as yourself not to be good enough to be to giver. If within you have to give, you have enough, that you have enough confidence and you can give to create a world peace, you do it yourself and others will come to your level. Just because you live amongst a bunch of thieves, you don't have to become a thief to live. You have to teach them without thieving can be lived. We can organize things and can be done. But you are used to voices and pictures. Try to reach in the level of your own creation, which is your field, in respect to the others. Don't become a monk because that does not serve, because there will be nobody to produce even clothes for the monks. If everybody become a monk, then we have a shortage of everything. But become a monk in the soul, in the level of the soul. Then you can live in a society, but bring everybody to your level. This comes from culture, this comes from understanding. And so, as I always said, in the Iranian culture, we've learned this for 300 years. We don't cross borders. But we have learned how to support the others can achieve the same in peace. This is the problem with youngsters. You know, when you have somebody who's just won a lottery, I always say, and they go mayhem and they buy the top Rolls Royce and everything else and the lottery runs out. This is like the new nations, that they like a young boy with a bit of money from daddy. They cause mayhem. When they mature, they become old men and they understand. There's a statistics in British government years ago. There's a lot of thieving and rioting and all sorts of things between the age of 14 and 25. Even people go to prison. And after 25, they never commit a single crime in their life. But because they committed a crime when they were boisterous, that tags them for the rest of their life. It's not allowing that boisterous for between 14 and 25, 29 to damage the rest of the life, the rest of the structure of the life man. You got to learn, don't look for answer. The answer is within you. You don't need a reactor. The reactor is within your brain, within your consciousness, within your brain. We have to show a reactor that it can affect you for you to understand in reality that the inner being is you. The reactor only shows your weaknesses and your limitation. This is something I tried to teach from the day one when I said when you start a reactor, pray for it. Because when you pray for it, you give part of your soul, and that knows your limit. Because when you give with sincerity at that point. So you set the level, you set the standard for your reactor. So it's you as a physical man who changes, but you gave the point of reference to it to be with you. And then through it you give to the other reactors, because if you cannot give, the other reactors cannot operate. So in fact, to you giving, you set the standard. This is what I said to the knowledge seekers when they came to this place first. We have 8 seats around the table. And I told them, when you unify as one, then you can operate the reactors in the lab. And as we see, there are 3 or 4 left. You have to be open to your own strength, not blaming others for what is your greed and you call it other people's fault. I get asked a lot of questions. Why don't you answer to this or that? I'm not here to answer. You have to find the answers, what is being put in there. If you come to take what is not yours, you can't take. Physically you might do, but it's not there. There's a lot of processes you have to understand. There is a lot going on at the moment in Belgium trying to discredit. Now they couldn't do it through because of the pressure from international foundations. Now they're trying to find a way to discredit me for whatever. But they don't understand I left the physicality. How can I be discredited for I have no connection with? The whole condition, the whole object is to be able to set a scene. To be able to create the environment. We are in a condition at the moment in the foundation that we can finance institute or go out to find a way to finance an institute in every country in the world. But is that our job, or is it for the man to reach it through not physicality but through the teaching and the soul? Is there a need for us to open the university now? From what I've seen happening here in the institute, I don't see any reasons. Because the physical man is too greedy to be here, and he touches me and he hurts me and it affects my work in teaching. We are considering very closely to cancel the opening institute and just teach on the internet directly to people. Because the physical man here causes too much pain. Because they come here for their greeds, and what they don't get here, they blame the foundation and the rest for it. Why should I open that to the others? This is the problem. This is what we create for ourselves. There's a huge question mark now for me to open the institute and follow through opening the universities or institutes around the world. Why should I put myself through another brain hemorrhage, as has happened to me in past six months here, because of the greed of the man and the stupidity of the man? So I wrote my books, nobody was around. I published my papers. I still teach. We have some dear friends around us in this institute now. We can handle, we don't need more. So Do I need
Armin,
to
can you
do that? Is it the dog, Armin?
Yes.
So
He follows me
need
everywhere. So.
Yeah. So do we need to do this? Or I can pray and I can leave my soul for the whole of humanity to reach. By teaching, by opening this institute, I saw a lot of weaknesses in the behavior of the man, which I can't handle. And to them is normal. So they brought their greed and stealing from outside inside, and they see their right to steal. And because they can't steal, the foundation becomes at fault, and other people ask why. Look inside you and what happened inside. How I'm going to teach the man in Amazon who has no computer and he wants to stay at the same level as the man in the White House. I'll reach you through your soul. Do I need to open an institute to do it? No. The experience of past 6 months here in the Institute was a very much eye-opening. I opened the house of God to people and they came to rob from the house of the God. And what they could not rob, they became blame of the God. So we closed the door. Because my physical being cannot take this. So now, is it a problem, or I can teach through the soul and let it be? As I said, there are no papers in the universe and there are no pens. This is a habit of the man. We teach through the soul of the man to every existence on this planet. This is for those who are open, they'll receive. Do not look for others or reactors to elevate your needs or your souls. Understand the level of your own soul and where you stand and where you want it to be. If you are here pretending to be very generous, but inside the generosity is to what you can take, then you'll find out you get nowhere, because your soul knows what you're planning. And that's exactly what happens in the universe. We see your consciousness. Physicality is irrelevant. You have 20 arms and no head and 2 souls, 2 consciousnesses in one body, it's all the same. We've seen that in the past 3 or 4 days. What has been done in Washington with 50 leaders of Africa, this could have been done 200 years ago, 100 years ago. There's so many millions of souls did not have to suffer. Now we give it to you because we have to. If we don't, then you come and take it from us. But we're still trying to show we are generous, we let you have. We're letting you have because we know very soon we cannot have a peaceful time because we cannot steal from you more. This is all clear to what is said and what is done and what is getting to be done. So don't ask how can we elevate. Understand the position of your soul in where it is and how you want to elevate people to your standard, or find the souls who can elevate your soul. Open your soul and you receive. We've shown that in the reactors in the open. Give and you see what comes up to you, and open yourself and you see what you receive. You wake up in the morning and you feel different and you set your life different. And this is what's going to happen from now on. Because humanity is too aggressive to be able to teach this way. So we reach you through where we can reach easier. Because the physicality has a lot of beauty, but at the same time it comes in horrendous conditions. As I go back, go on the internet and find the word of this Prime Minister who says, it's my right, it's our right to kill children. You understand fully why. God help you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome.
Yes, those are good words, and I'm sure many of us feel the same way about that.
Try to find peace with yourself, and then you find out that you're exactly where you have to be. Any other questions?
Should probably wrap it up here pretty shortly.
Well,
it's been over 3 hours. But go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say, I think peace is within you, and you have to be able to accept that, even from what's happened in the past. Forgiveness has a lot to do with it as well, and not just forgiveness for other people, but for what you have done. And it leads to a good path, I think.
Let me tell you something a lot of people don't know. I was aware of my condition and what I'm destined to be at a very young age. But fear of accepting the responsibility, I knew how to get out of it. Because the burden was too much and I was too young. It got to the point that escaping from what it was to be was an impossibility. I had to find peace within myself and within my physicality to be able to do what I'm doing now. We can run away from it, but because it's set to be the balance, you will come to it. I tried to escape from it for 20 years, 21 years. And then at the end, I knew there is no chance. There is a destiny. There is settings. Scene has been set to bring things to a level. Then material world, anything did not matter. But as my wife always say, but we still need this material world to be able here to teach and keep things going. And I said, when there is a need, it will come. And if there is any hardship, it will come because it has a correction to be done. We have become too physical and we have to dress and the suit and everything else to be and to be decent. Clothing is a fashion of the human being. We don't see no monkey with a skirt and handbag. And we don't see any lions running around with a shotgun. So we have chosen as humans to be where we are and we can change it. And at the same time, we have the opportunity to change it, but the problem is that the greed is too good to be there. I always say that a lot of people tell me, why have you done such a thing, setting the institute in such a scene, in such a place? I always say the intelligence of the man is not in his eye, he sits on it. So if I sit in a garage and try to show the reactors, oh, there is nothing. This is what they try to do with us in Belgium. In Italy, we changed the scene. So people come in, when they come to the environment of the Foundation Center, as the knowledge seekers all know, is impressive enough to impress even the world leaders. And is set for a certain purpose for that. Because I understood in my lifetime that you have to speak the language of the man to the man, and language of a thief to the thief, and the language of a child to a child. The world leaders and world religious leaders who come to this place, they come to steal, they don't come to give. So I set the scene for them that it's a beautiful place, it's a new technology, come and steal. But in stealing, trying to steal, they literally spread the seed of the knowledge. We understand the weakness of the man and we use the weakness of the man to what do you call it, to progress our teaching. A man who's humble, when he comes through the door, he sees the place and he understands. A man who's a world leader, we have world ambassadors, they come through the door, is big enough, bigger than what they are. So we can still dictate our way for pushing for world peace. It's not that we live in a place to be. No, we set the scene to be able to speak the language of the man who comes through the door. Pray by giving your soul to the others to elevate with you if you're a man of peace. And if you're a soul with intentions of damage, the souls reject, as I said, when they don't need it, they reject it. So your energy is wasted. Change your way to be the true giver, then you see the true peace. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. That was wonderful. Wonderful
Thank you,
workshop.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
All the best. See you next week.
Yes, next week. That'll be the 14th.
Bye-bye. The 14th.
Bye-bye.
14th of August, but the 23rd workshop.
Not a secret. Yeah, we might have a very good news for you by then. I hope we will. Thank you very much.
Keshe, I was wondering.
Good night, Mr. Keshe.
Yeah, pardon?
I was wondering, you mentioned you're gonna release the schematic for the flashlight.
Yeah.
Where we can find it to take a look?
It'll go on the Keshe Foundation website, on the papers.
Okay.
It'll go on it because we have to. You got to realize we are releasing it today and tomorrow to the Italian organization companies and the Japanese organization. We have a detailed conversation and meetings with them. We are looking at the most probably we build our own system. We have to see what they can add to it, and they know whatever they produce will be shared internationally. So we let them replicate the system, and then with replication we release it internationally. Oh my God, Han is on the move again.
And moving fast.
So we will release, as I said, with the patents, and as I said, with everything will go through to be able to support the foundation. Strange enough, one of the guys who was here recently said, if you would have put the patents, the USB stick on your website, and everybody had to pay $1, the university would have been paid for. And I said, it's the integrity of man who's got used to stealing. Then the thing is, because they have to have it, it's their right to have, but they don't know there's a limit to what they can have. So everything we do, as usual, goes on the foundation website and you'll go through. You can donate if you like and download it, and it's there. It's a very strange thing that there is a website we found that the book has been copied 100,000 times plus. So 100,000 at €40, that's 4 million we don't have to invest in research. So the ones who stole and download the book data out free, they don't know with that they ban their soul from achieving to where it's supposed to be. Because that's the habit. It went, I told you this before to people, I released the knowledge that it can support the foundation to do what it's like to do. So when you stole the €40 from not us being able to do our work and other research and even open the institute, so don't go and pray, I want to be a correct man and give my soul, I'm a very correct man. You already put your soul in the order because it came with a condition. You brought a condition and you stole. You downloaded it, you pay for it in your way. It's the same as the bomb and the woman on the beach. Just because you don't know, you pretend not to know, you still have to pay for it. We'll release everything on the website. You'll have a look at it.
And just a reminder to everyone that the books are available on the KesheFoundation.org website. So
all the papers are there.
And papers as well. And that the money goes toward the Keshe Foundation to help support it. So that's a good way to donate, is to buy the books.
Oh no, but the whole thing is we used to give everything free. We gave a lot of systems free. Very soon we announced something which is very strange to a lot of people about the foundation. But people, as Elliot told me, why the Keshe Foundation is the only foundation where people, they think everything has to be free from. Yes, we give our souls free to you, but the physicality has to be paid for. And if we have managed to be here for 10 years, we're still here. Then the number of the followers of the foundation runs into tens of millions. And they'll come from all over the ways of life and living. So we do not come and tell you, you done this, there's a sin, you stole the books from us. That is done by your own soul. You will not be enlightened by what is supposed to be, because you put a condition on what it is, how you received it. Thank you very much for your time. We'll speak next week.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. Bye, Joe.